So welcome everyone. Tonight we are talking about all things self-employed, and we have an excellent speaker tonight. John's going to be talking about his journey to being self-employed, some tricks and tips about how you can network and just generate cash while being self-employed, which is really on topic at the moment because a lot of people are finding themselves in that situation with this COVID thing struggling and keeping going on. Just a little slide for the agenda. So we try to start on time at 6. They're a little bit behind today, but that's all right. We do welcome and introductions normally. We're going to let you guys introduce yourselves. So give you a few minutes to say hi, who you are and what you do. We usually kind of do a little bit of a what's new in the Elementor world, and then we spin off into the main topic with some Q&A at the end, or you can ask questions throughout as well. We do try to finish around about 7 to 7:30, so we don't want to go too long because we know your evening time is precious. So a little bit about us. I'm Will. I'm one of the organizers for the Elementor meetup here in Sydney. My background is a WordPress developer, but I use Elementor quite heavily on client websites. I'm not a designer at all, but I find that using Elementor really kind of cuts down the amount of time it takes to develop stuff. I used to use like Genesis, and then I moved over to Beaver Builder and now Elementor. I've actually got a client site in GeneratePress as well, so I'm kind of spreading my wings over everything. But I'm a developer at heart. I love WordPress. I love connecting WordPress with systems. That's my specialty. So connecting it with the API, the Zapier, and stuff like that. But I love being a host as well to these meetups. I love sharing all the information. And we've got a fantastic team of organizers here. So I'll hand you over to John. If you want to do a little bit of introduction, John.
Hi, I'm John. And as you will find out a lot about later on, I am self-employed and I run my own design agency. I'm a graphic designer and I have been working on websites for about 10 years now. And I found Elementor about 2, maybe 3 years ago, and it changed my life. Because being a graphic designer, I know nothing about coding and I'm not a developer, and it allowed me to be super creative. So that's why we all love Elementor. Over to you, Julia.
Yep. Hi, my name is Julia. I'm a web designer. So I work for a software company as a web designer there, and we don't use WordPress at all. And I also have my own business on the side with a small team, and we do websites, graphic design, digital marketing, a bit of everything. I love Elementor. I started using it a few years back, and yeah, it's just our bread and butter, basically. So welcome everyone, and happy to be here with you all. Over to Maurice. You're on mute.
You're on mute, Maurice.
Sorry, everybody. That was a catchphrase last year. It shouldn't be this year. Maurice here. I'm the hobbyist in the team here. So I don't have a business as such, but creating lots and lots of websites is a hobby. Mostly using Elementor. I've been creating since front page and things like that. So yeah, just a lifetime hobby of websites and WordPress and things like that. So welcome everybody.
Thanks everyone for doing your introductions. I remember front page. I remember that very well. That's one of my first editing experiences for web pages as well. Okay, so let's move on a little bit to the code of conduct. I'm not going to go through all these line by line, but you can visit the code of conduct on elementor.com/community/code of conduct. Too long, didn't read it, basically be nice to each other or we'll kick you out. We try and run these groups on the first Thursday of every month between February and November, although we're having one in December as well. Announcements are in the events.elementor.com. We usually run for about an hour, maybe an hour and a half, depends on the number of questions. Just please mute your mic during the main presentation. If you want to ask a question, drop it in the chat, or you can put your hand up and someone will point out your question. It's okay for people to photobomb you, so pets and kids, that's totally just fine. But just ultimately, just relax and enjoy the presentation. So guys, it's over to you. If you'd like to do an introduction, you can down the bottom or up the top in one of the controls where the emoticons are. You can just raise your hand or you can raise your hand physically as well, and we'll throw you over. Just tell us who you are, what you do, and what your experience with Elementor is. So we'll open the floor for a few minutes and let you guys share. You don't have to, by the way.
But don't be
This
shy.
is Don. I'm from Sydney. I just do some website, maybe 2-3 per year. So it's not my main income. I do many other stuff. But I found Elementor and all the plugins it comes with, especially Crocoblock, quite interesting. So I keep my mind open to possible projects. Thank you.
Thanks, Dom. Valentino, go for it.
Yeah, hi. After I did live in Sydney before, I was a painter for a set production company. 4 years ago, I decided to move to Tasmania and become a website designer. Before that, I'd been dabbling with websites for over 10 years. It's going fantastic down here. I've done a whole bunch of different CMSs. I ended up using WordPress and then WordPress Bakery, and probably about the third computer I chucked out the window, decided to try Elementor, and love it. Can't fault it. Well, it's good. So yeah, thanks.
It's better.
Yes, exactly.
Well, welcome, Valentino.
Thank you.
I'll go. Yeah, is that okay?
Yeah, go for it, Carlos.
How's it going, everyone? My name is Carlos. I'm actually in the US, so it's 12 o'clock here at night. So I'm really excited. I'm a night owl, so as you can, sure a lot of you guys do. I do all my websites at night, so I get more concentrated. But yeah, I've been doing web development for almost, since 2017. Started out with Wix and sold my first, my first website for $1,000 here in the US, and I held $30 retainers, and then realized Wix was terrible. So gradually my skills started, getting better, and I got into WordPress and heard of Elementor, and I've been using it pretty much ever since. And so I do more freelance work, but I also work for a company, not doing website, but doing sales. And there's just an extra form of income that I do. And so, that's a little bit about me.
That's great. Thank you, Carlos. Look, having a sales background is good. It's good, if you're freelancer as well. So if you switch between those two, that's really cool. And what are you talking about nighttime? Look, it's daylight behind you.
I was going to say, great background.
It's just the background, so you can tell.
Would anyone else like to introduce themselves?
Yes. Hi, I'm Gauravjit Singh. So,
Hi, Gaurav.
Yes, I am from India, and basically I am using Elementor from past 2 years. So I help trainers, coaches build their websites, landing pages, and webinar funnels. So basically, Elementor is my bread and butter. So I used to join some meetups. Elementor conducts Elementor Sydney, Elementor India. So yes, great to connect with you all.
Wow, awesome. 2 years. You are an expert, Gaurav.
So basically, previously I was using another platforms like Wix, but I found Elementor a good platform. So just switched to WordPress Elementor, and I'm liking it.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Great to have you guys here. Lois.
Yep,
Can you hear me all right?
we can.
Clear. Yep.
I'm pretty new to all this. I'm actually a bookkeeper by trade, but I have done a web page for my own business. I have enjoyed what I have done, and I just would like to network and find out more from other people to look for other careers down the track.
Great. Thanks for sharing. It's always good to expand your knowledge. So thanks for being here. You're in the right place. If you want to learn some more stuff about WordPress and Elementor, definitely your right place here. So thank you, guys. If no one else has wanted to share, I'll just share my screen again. Here we go. So there's not been a lot of news. There's not been a lot of news in the whole WordPress ecosphere over the last month. There is one thing from Elementor. So we have a little bit of an update. So released at the beginning of this month was Elementor Pro, actually that should say Elementor Pro, version 3.5.0. And it's got some quite exciting stuff in there. So there's a few new things. It's really kind of focused on WooCommerce. Now, if you've ever done a WooCommerce website and you've got an Elementor on there, you'll kind of know that you can do the product page, but when you get to things like the checkout page and the cart, then there was nothing there from Elementor. So you have to go to another plugin for those. Which was not as great experience having to go outside. But this version, it comes with the WooCommerce checkout widget. So you can customize that with Elementor. You can customize the cart widget and the My Account widget as well. So that's really good news. It means that you don't have to go outside. I know somebody mentioned, is it Crocoblocks? Which is a fantastic plugin, by the way. But a lot of people, when they were using Elementor to skin an e-commerce website, they'd set it all up and then they get to the checkout page. They're like, why can't I do that in Elementor? How can I update my cart? And it was like, you couldn't, but now you can. So as a version 3.5 for the Pro, it's kind of all WooCommerceified, which is fantastic. Another couple of things in there for new features. There's a progress tracker widget. So that's basically a progress bar for reading blogs. So when someone's scrolling through your blog, you can snap a scroll bar to the top or the bottom. It just goes through a percentage of when you're reading, just to give people an indication as to how long that post is. And kind of new to Elementor Pro is these things called experiments. So what they do is they'll throw in this experimental feature just to get some feedback from people. And the experimental feature in this version is something called Scroll Snap. So what that does is it allows you to have different bands with your desktop. And when you scroll, so rather than unlike parallax where it kind of moves or the background is fixed and moves, when you're scrolling down, it kind of snaps up to another desktop view. So if you can imagine you're viewing a picture, you're scrolling up, and then it kind of snaps in to the next image frame. So that's what that is, Scroll Snap. So you can have a play around with that if you've got Elementor Pro. But just in general, there's 16 tweaks and 8 fixes for this new version as well. But I'm really excited about the WooCommerce stuff because, I've got quite a few e-commerce stores. A few of them are in Elementor, and I use an extra few plugins to get at those checkout and cart. But now I'm going to revisit that and see how Elementor allows you to skin those ones. So really looking forward to that. Something else as well, they're throwing out is a new Black Friday seasonal kit. I'm fairly sure that is free, or at least free with the Pro version. What it is, it's just a collection of sections of pop-up modal pop-ups and some stickers and animation as well. So allow you, if you've got a store or even you've got a service-based website, if you want to get in on the Black Friday deals, then it allows you to have a few sections of pop-ups to kind of make people feel as if that's part of the Black Friday. So I'm fairly sure that's free, but you can visit that link anyway. So all the links for tonight, I'll put up on the events page on Elementor and on the meetup page as well. And we'll release the presentation from Jon as well, and we'll post that up to those pages. So you don't have to dig around, you don't have to take too many notes. All that will be available to you afterwards, maybe later on tonight or maybe tomorrow. So that's it for the updates. So I'm going to flick over to Jon. Jon, if you would like to take over control, I'll just stop sharing, and Jon's going to chat for the main presentation for tonight.
Okay, so let's get started on this one to make sure this button works. No, I'll do it with my mouse. Yes, so I am Jon Wolfgang Miller, and I'm going to talk to you today, not directly about Elementor, but I'm going to give networking advice. And this will be networking advice if you are self-employed, if you run a full business, or if you have a side hustle, or you're looking to start all of that stuff up. I'm just going to give you a lot of tips on what has worked for me and what could work for you in the future. Because the main thing that we all know, if you're running any kind of business or company, is customers. Customers are always the most important element of any business because they are the ones that have the money and bring in the money. And running my own design agency, my clients are my customers and they are the most important people. So we're going to have a look at ways of how I can get clients, how I can get customers, and how I can get more. So I will start off by talking briefly about my career history, very briefly, but just we'll be looking at in-person networking there, kind of what I've done without using the internet, how I've got my name out there, and then we will take a look at online networking, and we'll look at some online marketplace programs such as Fiverr and Upwork. And obviously the most important one for us to look at here is Elementor Experts, because it's run by Elementor. So we have to mention that one as well. Then we're going to take a quick look at some visual social media channels. Obviously there are millions of social media channels out there now, so I'll just be talking about 2 that work very well for me. Then we'll be looking at the idea of being a micro influencer on Instagram and how that can work for you and what it can do for online networking. So a little bit about myself. I am Jon Wolfgang Miller and I'm 40 years old. And I've been working as a graphic designer since leaving uni around 20 years ago. And I've been self-employed since 2013. I run my own graphic design agency that takes place in my office right here at my house. And I am the only employee, and I do work with a lot of other people on this, and I hire people to do different things, but I am the only employee of this company. I focus on print, branding, and digital, and it's mostly working with small companies or startups. But why the full name? Why am I always referred to as Jon Wolfgang Miller? That's a very good question. When you have a name like Jon Miller, you have the same name as about 10 billion people in the world, and trying to be found on Google or anywhere on social media is almost impossible. So I use my full name, Jon Wolfgang Miller, because you type that into Google and I will show up. I'm just going to run through a few parts of advice. And first of all, I'm going to start with number 1. The most important advice for anybody starting out their own business. And that is number 1, take your time. You should never rush things. Now, I talk to a lot of designers, obviously, and I talk to a lot of people who are straight out of university. And my question to them is always, what would you like to do when you graduate? And the answer is often that they want to start up their own design agency right now. And my response to that is always exactly the same. That's a bad idea. Why is that a bad idea? Because you need to take your time. Running into your own agency straight away, hey, it possibly does work for a lot of people, but it wouldn't have worked for me. And here you are, I'm just going to give you some examples. This is someone that I like to refer to as the shit designer, and apologize my language for this, but that's what I call them, the shit designer. Now, this was someone, a young Irish girl straight out of university that I talked to on an online chat board. And she had started up her own design agency website and had spent a lot of money on Google Ads, and she was getting no clients. Everyone else on the online chat board was giving her advice on how to use Google Ads. And I went for a different direction. I took a look at her website and I talked to her. Number 1, her website was terrible. And as a graphic designer who's selling the idea of building a website for other people, having a terrible website did not work. The other problem was she had no portfolio on there. She had no evidence of work experience, anybody she'd ever worked with before. So I spoke to her and I'm just like, well, who have you worked before? How many people have you ever worked before? And she said, no one. I'm straight out of university. And I'm like, that's your problem. Try working elsewhere for at least 5 years. She didn't like that advice, and I've never spoken to her since. I don't know if she went ahead with it, but that was the advice that I gave her because it was too soon for her to get straight in. And then I went into talking about my own career and how that has worked for me. I was working for 10 years at other agencies before I went self-employed. And as you can tell from my accent, I'm from the UK, but I live here in Australia. And I've worked for many different agencies here in Australia and in the UK. And I've worked for some pretty big clients, such as Google and Foxtel. And that has all happened through the agency. I've not brought these clients in myself. And why have I done this? Well, working for other agencies has a lot of pros and cons. Now, this is relevant to myself being a graphic designer, but I'd like to say this is relevant for any industry that we all work in here. Number 1 being that if you're working for someone else, the pay is always shit. Why? Because the agency are the ones who are working directly with the clients, and you're just sort of the third party to this. So you don't often get paid very well. Number two, the work is often boring. When you're working for a big agency and you're a junior, you're going to be given the jobs that no senior members of the company want to do. So you're going to get the bad jobs, but it's a great place to start. And what are the pros? Well, this is what has worked for me. And this was the advice I gave to the shit designer about why she should try and work for someone else first. Number one, experience. Work experience, working with agencies. What I learned from that was huge. Number two, the design skills that I built up. Coming out of university and basically knowing Photoshop, I learned a lot more about what is going to work in the industry. And again, this goes for any of the industries that you guys work in, whether you're a developer, a writer, an animator, illustrator. If you're working with someone else, you're going to learn a hell of a lot more about what works in the business. And the other thing I worked about was how to work with clients. And this brings me back to the original point of networking. What I learned about how to deal with clients, I wouldn't have learned running my own agency. Now, as you can see, there's a little phrase in there, the customer is always right. And that is always true. But as you also know, the customer is always wrong. And when you're working for an agency, you figure out how to make those clients like you, how basically you're not telling them they're wrong, but you're kind of going against what they want to do because you are the professional here. They're coming to me as a professional designer to make them a good looking website, which is probably a lot different to what they want to do. So you figure out those things. However, the most important one you can see at the bottom there is the connections that I made from working for other people for 10 years. This is in-person networking. People that I worked with in this industry, if they worked for these agencies or they were the clients themselves, I had a connection with them. That was in-person networking. Okay, that took me 10 years to build that up, but that is how I was able to start my own business because I had those connections to get started. So yes, I've underlined this one. Number one piece of advice, take your time. Again, every industry is different. We will have different personalities, but I'm just saying this is what worked for me. So do not rush into anything like this. Try and learn a lot first. So yes, so that is in-person networking. Now we're going to take a quick look at online networking. And I'm going to start by talking about the best place to find clients and to find work and to network with other people online. And these are online online marketplaces. And I've named a couple of the main ones here. The main two at the top there that I know are Upwork and Fiverr. And you can see Elementor in there. This is when I'll talk about Elementor experts. But let me just, I don't know if you've ever used these one before. You may all be people who work or get a lot of their work from Upwork or Fiverr. But I'm just going to quickly show you how something like Upwork works and how it is very good for getting clients and online networking. Let me just see, how do I share that one? Can you guys, Will, just give me a thumbs up if you can see Upwork. Yes, cool. I had some problems with this earlier. So this is Upwork. And as you can see here, find pros for any job. So that's regardless of what industry you guys are working or what you're trying to start up as a new career or as a self-employed business, it's for anything. So this is the perfect place to start. And you can tell whether this is going to be the best tool for you to use to find clients. So what do you need done? Well, I'm looking for a web designer, aren't I? So I searched that and all that. And then, so these are the results that come up. And this is an excellent way just to kind of do some research on here. You don't even need to sign up yet to find out all of this. We're just going to see other people who are doing the exact same thing. And what you can do is you can click on them and find out a little bit more about what they do, what kind of services they offer. And they will also tell you, as you can see here, what they charge per hour. But they've had 100% job success. That's just some of them. But it'll tell you their total earnings, which I've always found a little bit weird. But what you can find out from this is just if this is the way that you're looking at getting clients in, these are the kind of earnings that you will be able to take from using an online marketplace such as Upwork. So let's go back to this one. So yes, online marketplaces can be excellent, but the same as in-person networking, there are a lot of pros and cons to these. Start with the cons. Major competition is number one. I am saying, hey, tomorrow you can go on Upwork and sign up to that and try and get clients. You are up against a lot of people, and you are against a lot of people who have been doing it many, many years. So you've got to remember that there is competition. So it's about selling yourself and finding the best way to get your name out there. The other potential issue with this is that pay may not represent the average pay in your country. On the page I was just looking at then, I can see there's a web designer whose hourly rate is $13 an hour. I'm not sure whereabouts in the world she lives, but that's lower than the minimum wage here in Australia. So if I was looking to do that, I wouldn't be able to charge $13 per hour. So what I have to do is show that if I'm charging even double that, why I am twice as good as this person here. So that's can be difficult. So that's a potential con from this. However, pros, well, clients are from anywhere in the world. I believe there's about 8 billion people in the world right now. And this versus the in-person networking, I made a lot of connections here in Sydney, and when I lived in the UK in a place called Bristol, I made a lot of connections there, but that's it. This will allow you to connect and network with 8 billion people. And you can get regular clients from this. They can just be little one-off jobs. However, it can be regular clients. And if you do a good job for one person, they're going to come back to you. Simple as that, really. And this is kind of what we need, or what I need anyway, personally, running my own agency, is regular clients. I can't just be relying on, I've got this guy this week, someone else next week, someone else after that, someone else after that. I need regular clients, and I have quite a few of those now, and I get retainers from them to run their websites or manage their websites. So that's a great place to try and find people like that. If you impress people there, they can be a regular client. So yes, that is a great place to start your online networking. Oh, and here's another one, Elementor experts. We have to have a look at this one. So this is Elementor. I'll just switch over to the other screen. 1 second, where's that one? Let's have a look. Sorry, give me a second. Okay, so this is Elementor experts. And this is my page here. Now, I was able to set this up for free. And I think that's basically because I am a premium customer for Elementor. But if you guys have that as well, you can go in and you can set this one up for free. It's very basic. As you can see here, it's just the original version. I believe they are working on developing this into something a lot bigger. It's quite simple compared to something like Upwork. And you can just go on here in portfolio and you can drop in examples of anything that you've built using Elementor. And then people can contact you directly through this to ask for your services. This is quite new and not a lot of people use it. So we were talking about competition before. I have had a lot of emails from here, probably about 100, and it's probably been running for about a year now. Some of them are good, some of them bad, but it's just kind of thrown me right out there. And also it's very direct, because if someone wants to build a website with Elementor and needs some help, they can come to me. So that's all the pros about it. One small con that I find at the moment in this one is when I go on services, it doesn't give me a chance to really say much about what I do or what the fee may be for this. All I can do is say what the starting price is. $500 starting price. Yes, I can build a website for $500, but that's going to be pretty simple, and there's not going to be a lot of branding involved in this. And like I said, I've had about 100 people contact me, and they want like the biggest website in the world built for $500. You know, Zuckerberg's contacted me. Can you build Facebook too? I'm like, no, not for $500. Sorry, Zuckerberg. So yes, that's Elementor experts. So online marketplacing. Take a look at that and see if that's going to work for you and what you want to do in your career. Now we're going to finish up and just have a look at some social media channels. And as I said earlier, there's a lot of social media out there. I finished university about 20 years ago when I first started working. And I think the only social media we had then was called MySpace. Some of you might even be too young to remember that one. But yes, MySpace was the only one that we had. Now you've got Instagram, you've got Pinterest, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, all of these different channels that you can go down. And the problem is it's too much work to manage all of them at the same time. So these are two that I use, which as a graphic designer, they are excellent. But I'd say that this would go for most things that we are all involved in here. Certainly anything that kind of has like a visual element. So if you are animator, illustrator, graphic designer, any of these things, you are able to show them on here. So let me just go back to this screen here. So I don't know if any of you have used these yet. And when we finish this chat, I'd love to see some of your pages if you have used them, and follow you obviously on that. But yeah, so this is Dribbble, and Dribbble is good, but the only thing about Dribbble is it's quite simple. It's quite basic. It's a bit more of a portfolio page. Works a little bit like a very basic Instagram, in that I just have images up and I can get likes and views and comments and stuff like that. That's because I am just getting the free version here. I don't really use this one a lot. So I did have the pro version previously, but I've cancelled it now. So it is good. And the good thing about Dribbble is not anybody can join this. You actually have to be invited to be a Dribbble member. So I can potentially invite some people here, but you have to kind of show me that you're worthy of going on here. The other thing that's brilliant about this compared to something like Instagram is it's all about design and it's all about visual things and showing it off, whereas Instagram is about anything. You know, you could make pizzas and put that up, or be an attractive person selling makeup or something and put that up. This is nothing like this. This is all about visual design elements. So that's just sort of the basic version. But this one here is the pro version. And this can be a source of networking. Now, something like this, someone can still message me through this if they find me on here. However, if you take the pro version, I'll just show you this. This is an illustrator I found. If I like this illustrator, there's a little button at the top that says hire us, and you can send them a message about working with them. So therefore, it's a great place to show off all of your most recent work. And also it's a good place for networking, a good place for people to find you for working. So that's that one. Then the other one is Behance or Behance. I don't actually know how to pronounce this one. I'm terrible at pronunciations. But this is one again. Don't know if any of you have got this or ever seen this. This is now owned by Adobe. They bought it out a few years ago. And this one I think is probably the best one out there. Now I get to use, I mean, I have an Adobe account. I don't know how I have it for free. You may be able to get it for free anyway, but this one's great because, okay, I can put up these images and it kind of works the same way as Instagram or Dribbble, but you can add a hell of a lot more to each page. And this is the design that I did for a travel app about 5 years ago. And rather than just putting up one single image with a little bit of text for this one, I have multiple slides in here. So we start off with the first slide, just visuals of the screen. Then I can kind of go into a lot more detail. This is what I did on the opening screen, put some text in here, city highlights. This is what we had in here. So I can just put a lot more elements into this. And if you have some time, take a good look through this and see what other people are doing this. This is really like an online portfolio for you. And it's a real chance to show off what you can do and really impress people. And you can add up videos and GIFs to this as well. And, you know, so I've got all of this in here, 04, 05, what I did with fonts and colors and stuff. So a lot of detail about what I did on this project, so that if someone is looking to find me, to find someone to design their app, then they're more likely to come to me because I've put in a lot of information about it here. And at the bottom, you can have text and you can have a link to your website or just a link to contact you. So that's a very, very useful one. Back to this one, make sure I'm on the right screen here. Yes, sir. Visual social media, pros and cons of this as well. Cons, the amount of time that it could potentially take. That one that I made for the online travel app, that took quite a long time to make. However, I was able to reuse it. I reused it also on Pinterest. And then it was also something I could send to clients just as a PDF, just in the email, just to kind of show them what I may be able to do for them. It was a bit more direct. The other thing is the competition. That, you know, there's a lot of people out there. Okay, this is more direct than something like Instagram, but, you know, unfortunately, I'm not the only person on there. And the pros for this one is, well, I don't pay anything for either of these things. And if you do take the pro version in Dribbble, that's very cheap. And also, as I've said, It's a lot more specific, and you can use all the tags and everything. Let's say you're an animator, you'll know how to word everything, get all your hashtags in there and everything, so that people looking for your particular type of animation skills would be able to find you. And yes, just an excellent source of online networking. And I only have 2 clients that have come from this. I've had a few people message me, but I have 2 clients, and one of them who lives in Chicago that I use a lot, and I get a lot of regular work from him. And then I just had another girl in Serbia contact me, and I did a little bit of work for her because she went on my Behance page and saw an ebook that I had made, loved it, and just wanted to employ me to build an ebook for her. So yeah, so that is visual social media. And then I'm just going to finish up by talking about one more social media channel, the one which I don't know if it's the most popular in the world right now, but I think it is. And Instagram has changed massively since Zuckerberg bought it out, and it's huge now. It's now just this massive entertainment channel, and we get reels on there, and they've tried to rip off TikTok and rip off Snapchat and all of this, but Instagram kind of has everything that you could be on there for hours every single day. And what I want to look at here is the idea of being on Instagram, but being a micro influencer. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard that phrase used before. A micro influencer is kind of, I guess, the opposite of a regular influencer. Now, when I think of regular influencer, I just, again, think of sort of young people who are just a lot more attractive than me, posing and, getting a lot of advertising deal stuff, which is great if that's your job, if that's what you want to do. But a micro influencer, a lot of people that I follow are there to kind of give me help and to give me advice, which is why I would follow them and why I would make connections with them. So we're just going to look at 2 different Instagram pages. The first one is mine, which again, I've not updated in years. And this is Instagram. This is about as basic as you're going to get. I hardly have any followers, like 700 followers, and I don't ever really post anything myself anymore. So the cons of this is that it is nothing special. It's kind of just a very basic portfolio page, which unless someone sent you the link, you're probably not going to find me. So therefore, it's not really an online networking source for myself. The pros of the way I use it, well, it's very simple. I'm just doing a copy and paste job here of what I put on Dribbble, for instance. It's the exact same images, the exact same text, and it's free. I've never given Zuckerberg a penny for that either. However, this is a micro influencer and someone that I follow who I am interested in, and I'm very impressed by what they do. And this is Net Brahma. And let me just switch to the other screen to show you that one. So this is Net Brahma, and this is a very good example of something that they have posted on here. Now, this is 10 slides in a carousel. And it's tips for using Adobe Illustrator, which is something that I use a lot. And as you may know, if you use these programs as well, you're never going to know everything. You always after extra tips, trying to learn something new. And what they've done here is created 10 slides, and they put these up every day, every few days. And this is something that I wouldn't have even thought to look for originally. Make isometric illustrations like a pro. And I'm like, yeah. I would like to know how to do that. And they have a very nice opening slide here. And then as we scroll through, step 1, information and highlights of all the tools in Illustrator that you would use. Step 2, just really working us through it step by step. And I follow them on Instagram, so I get to read this for free. So therefore, they're a micro influencer, and they are a very, very useful person. They're more likely to show up in the feeds, and they're going to get a lot more followers, and therefore get a lot more online networking. So as an online networker, as a micro influencer, pros and cons. Number 1 con, I would have to say there is probably the time. This is very impressive that Net Brahma is made, but that probably took a long time to make. And then it kind of comes down to, well, I mean, maybe it took them a day to make it, and you have to think, well, hang on, is that worth spending a full day making something like this when all I may get from this is just a lot of likes? And that might make me feel good, but from a career point of view, is that what I'm looking for? But pros are, yeah, if you kind of do this sort of thing, you're just going to get a hell of a lot more followers. And you're kind of there for a reason. That I'm not really there for a reason at the moment. This is just, hey, look at me, please. Whereas, you know, if you're doing something like this, you're going to get a lot more followers and people who want to work with you. And if they're impressed, I mean, I'm impressed by what he's doing here. And if I need something specific done in Illustrator that A, I don't have time, or B, I don't actually really know how to do, I'm going to employ him as a freelancer. I put it in. So therefore, it is very good online networking. So that's everything there about networking, all very fast and a brief view of in-person networking, online networking, and social media. And yeah, just the experience of what I have done previously and what has worked for me in the last 20 years and what I could be doing more of to help myself. But mostly it's advice for all of you guys to take a look at. So I want to open this up to a Q&A. And if you have any questions, you can raise your hand below using the raise hand button, or actually put your hand up, or you can post something in the chat. But what I would like to know is, A, if you have any questions about anything I've talked about then, what works for me, what hasn't worked for me, what I should have done better, what I should do next. But what I'd really like to know is what is working for you guys right now. So I'm kind of asking you the questions of, are you running your own business? Are you looking to run your own business? Do you use social media, and do you use it a lot better than I do on Instagram? So yeah, I will stop sharing now and we will throw it open.
That's great. Thank you very much, John. All your knowledge condensed into a 30-minute presentation. It's a difficult thing to do. Thank you very much for that. There is a question in the chat already from Sam. He asks, no portfolio, try working for other agencies for 5 years. And he asked this question, how do you get in any agency without an impressive portfolio and straight out of university? So what sort of tips would you give for a new person who's straight out of university and they're looking to engage in a job in an agency?
That's an excellent question. And yes, I mean, this was kind of the problems I had when I first came out of university as well, because again, you're going up against competition of someone who has a year experience or 2 years experience. So it kind of comes down to roughly what I said earlier of, you're going to have to kind of start at the back end, really. You're going to have to kind of take the low paid rubbish jobs, which, you know, anybody could do. Like, you know, my mum barely knows how to use a computer, but she could probably do all of them. And that's kind of like the end advice I could do. And it's just a little bit painful to do that when you're straight out of university, because based on what you know your skills are and what you've learned at university, you're not using a lot of them at first. But you give it 6 months and you give it a year, and then they'll start giving you the bigger jobs once they know they can trust you, or once they know the whole system. So yeah, so just kind of be prepared for any of these industries that you guys work in, anything we've talked about here. I'd probably say the same from your point of view, Will. If you're kind of bringing in anybody who knows coding, you kind of want someone who's been working for 50 years, but, you know, based on who's available, what your budget is, you might have to get someone who's kind of brought in to just do more simple stuff. I know very basic CSS, don't employ me, but you do that. So yeah, so be prepared to just start off slow. But also, if you're from university, you will have a portfolio of university. And you won't have done a lot professionally, potentially, but you can still show me what you've done and what your skills are. And I can sort of see what your style is. So if you know, for my graphic design agency, let's say I'm trying to employ another junior designer, I want to see everything they've done. And I want to talk to them about why they've done it and why they've picked a certain style, why they've gone with certain things. And they can impress me as much with what they've done at university as what they have done professionally.
Great answer there, John. A quick follow-up. Does your mum have an Instagram account?
No, my mum does not have an Instagram account. She tried to set up an Etsy page to sell some earrings that she made. And even trying to show her how to use Etsy, she's like, nah, I've had enough. I can't do it. I'm pointing out.
Anyone else have a question for John?
Actually.
Yep.
Hey, John, you said you also did print, right? Is that like so you did, was it more like graphic design, print and web, or?
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of tell you a little bit about sort of more about my career. When I came out of university 20 years ago, and I can give some good advice here as well. When I came out of university 20 years ago, the idea of a graphic designer working on websites didn't really happen because Elementor didn't exist. The idea of having any sort of page builders that I use now didn't really happen. And any sort of websites I worked on, I would just have to build them in Photoshop and then work with the developers to code them from there, which took a long time and was a bit painful. So therefore, at the start of my career, I started in print, and I still do quite a bit of that, and I make a lot of magazines. And that's kind of like what started me off. And I'm like, okay, great. 20 years ago, I'm just going to be a magazine designer. I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. This will be great. Then the internet took off and social media took off, and then nobody really buys magazines anymore. They do, but there's a hell of a lot less business in it now. And a lot of the big companies that I've worked for have closed down from making magazines. So therefore, it was kind of, I guess, sort of starting my career and not really being aware of how things were likely to change. But I saw this change happening 10 years ago, and I'm like, okay, learn websites, figure out WordPress, figure out the ways to do it. And that would be the advice that I'd give to anybody. And again, all of our careers here are different. What is it that you do yourself?
So I do websites as well, but I also do print actually. And I source print because I have a wholesaler's license here in the States. So I pretty much I'm a one-man kind of show, and I was going to ask you, what's the best way to contract a web designer? Is it per commission, or should I just invest the money into like somebody who actually does have, a lot of expertise in designs? Because I do large formats like banners, A-frames, anything like that. And so I just drop ship it to the customer. So but at this point, I wouldn't consider myself a designer. I'm sure like many of you, but that's my question was going to be if how should I look at it from a business perspective of like, should I just hire a graphic designer and, or just do like contracting work, like just hire per job or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, that's also a very good question. I mean, I think in terms of sort of what you said originally there, I think it's just sort of be aware of, I mean, you're saying, okay, you try to do this with websites and try to do all this sort of digital design. Just be aware of the fact that in 10 years time, if I'm doing this presentation, I'll be talking about very, very different things. And it's just being aware of the fact that everything does keep changing and keep developing at a very fast pace. And I talk to my dad about it a lot, who's 30 years older than me, and things didn't move quite so fast in sort of my career as they do right now. And the issue now is that with social media, that keeps changing, and sort of what clients want and what is popular with social media changes pretty much every day. And Instagram keeps changing, and they keep bringing in new rules, what you can do, what you can't do. So it's really just spending sort of your free time just watching all of this and being aware of it. But yeah, I think in terms of sort of bringing in a second person to work with you, yeah, I think if that's going to help you out. Now, from my point of view, yeah, I'd probably be a better company if I had another person sat in the office with me. And I mean, you can say that for anybody in any career. But just, as a pair, you're going to be better because you can kind of like bring in different skills. But also you can just sort of throw ideas off each other. And then, if you're sat next to your partner and you can kind of show them, well, what do you think about this? And they'll be like, I like this, but nah, maybe change that, whatever. And then, you might disagree with them a lot. But yeah, so from a career point of view, something that I've never done is to employ a second person or just, a partnership with them. So, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome, Jon. Thank you. It's helpful.
Also, can I just wade in here? So Jon was talking about earlier on the presentation, is talking about different price levels that people have. So if you're looking to hire somebody, you might want to look for like a different country for there, because their cost of living is going to be significantly different from where you are. So for example, here, if I was to try and hire somebody locally in Australia, I'd be paying like mega bucks to get a good quality person, just because, the cost of living here is high. Salaries are pretty decent as well. So if I was looking to do that, I need to part with a quite significant bit of money for there. However, if I was to look at different countries, with the different costs of living. So for example, Philippines, we've hired a lot of people from the Philippines before. They're very good speaking English. The culture is very similar to here. And the cost of living there is significantly lower though, but it doesn't mean their skill set is different. So, you could look to hire remote people like that, pay them a really good wage, which is going to be lower than something you might want to pay like a local person, but it's still a really good cost of living for them if you're paying them top dollar in their local rate. So that could be an option to look at that. It's not the same as hiring a local person. As John said, you can just kind of turn around and say to somebody and have that chit chat. Working with remote people brings in its own different issues and problems to solve, but that could be an option for you if you're looking for like a lower cost way to do that.
Good stuff, Will. Yeah.
Anyone else have a direct question for John?
Yep, Valentino.
Yeah, hey, how you going? I kind of had a chuckle when you said about the Instagram, your page, that you didn't update it for a while. Yeah, I've got probably, since I've moved down here, I've probably done around about 80 websites, and I've probably put 6 on social media. So I was actually more, this Elementor Experts, I haven't actually looked too much into it, but is it, I guess what a good feature would be is when you finish a build in Elementor, it automatically adds it to the experts. Is that a feature of the experts or?
No, definitely nothing that Elementor have in there right now, or as far as I'm aware that they're bringing in. I mean, the way that it does work is it's my choice to put something up or not put something up. And it's just kind of a portfolio page. So I'm taking screenshots of a certain part of the website that I want to show off, the homepage, another page, basically what I think are the best looking visually parts of the website. And also, like my portfolio, granted I haven't updated that in a few months either, there's only about 4 pages on there, and I've built probably about 15 or 20 using Elementor, and I just choose to put some on there and not put others on there. And again, it's the same with your portfolio. If I think of every piece of design that I've done over the last 20 years, that's not all in my portfolio, because that would be huge. You pick the highlights, you pick the best ones. So that's, if you are going to use Elementor Experts, I would highly recommend that. If you say you've built 80 sites, I'm guessing all of them aren't with Elementor,
no,
but whichever ones you've done with Elementor, just pick a handful of them and just sort of like show off the best elements of them. And you will obviously have a link to the website on there so people can kind of go further into it. But yeah, just show off the most impressive parts of it, I suppose.
Is there any way to, other than hiring another freelancer from, India, is there any way to automize portfolios across all of these things?
I wouldn't have thought so. I mean, look, it just kind of comes down to what you feel you want to do on your portfolio. And with mine, it's being a graphic designer, I could take a screenshot of a website, which, takes about 3 seconds, half a second. Or, let's just say I've just done a magazine or something. I can just do a screenshot of the cover or something. And I can just chuck that up and then put a little bit of text about it. You kind of don't necessarily need to spend that much time doing it. And I guess that was kind of like some of the pros that I was showing for what I do with Instagram, in that it doesn't take a lot of time because I'm not a micro influencer. All I'm doing was, here's a screenshot of what I did yesterday. Enjoy. And it could just be, let's say I've just done a logo, screenshot, upload, make it square, put it up, so yeah, I think, obviously I said I haven't updated my Instagram, so I'm not the best person to give advice on this, but if you've got 80 websites and you want to put all of them up on Instagram, just do a screenshot. No, not like the best ones. But I mean, open them all up, screenshot, upload them all, probably take you an hour, just open up a nice beer or something while you're doing that. Sorted, there's your portfolio.
Yeah, well, cheers.
What I tend to find is when people are starting to get into this whole kind of networking part, they kind of go a bit crazy. So like, as John said, there's like 1 billion social media channels out there. What you really want to do is understand who your target market is, where they kind of hang out. So for John, like Behance works, Dribble works because his clientele are designers. That's who he works for. For me, that's not my clientele. So I'd be useless if I post anything on Behance. I would get nothing there because that's not my clientele. So understand who your clients are and figure out where they go to. Do they use Instagram? Do they use Facebook groups? Do they use TikTok? Probably not, because they'll be like 13 or something. But and choose two. Choose two of them, the top two, and then focus your attention on those really, and try and build an audience. There's two ways of building an audience. You can build an audience for people who are going to follow you and like you, or you can build an audience for your target customers, people who want to work with you. And that's two very different things. So sharing your portfolio of the stuff you've done, which is great. You're going to get people who go, well, that's nice. I'll follow you and build up your following. However, if you want to get clients, you might want to post some more like technical challenges. Like, this is the project I had. This is a problem that I had. Here's how I solved it. Maybe like 2 or 3 slides, like John was showing that other person. And that's going to show your potential, show you how you work with other people, show that you can solve problems, and show off a little bit of your solutions as well. And that's going to say to people that are looking for work, oh, he knows what he's doing. He knows that particular area. He solved that particular problem. I've got that problem and he's got a solution. And that's going to engage you more in people who are going to potential clients for you. So 2 kind of different ways of building up social media, but I would definitely concentrate on just a couple for those, and just take it easy. Set yourself a routine. Posting once every day is crazy. Just post like once a month, once a fortnight, and stick to it. And try and build up that following. If it's working, then you can maybe increase to maybe like weekly or something. And when you're doing these sorts of things as well, try and just write down the process that you go through as well. So if you're posting, if you've done a project, you do a wrap up of a project afterwards, write down your 3 biggest challenges that you had with that particular project, write them down, do a little solution, 3 slides. Here's the problem. Here's what I did. Here's the outcome for that. And that can be used as your social media post. And write down how you do those things as well, because, when you want to scale up, if you've written down the process of what you do, then you can hand that off to someone else, like a VA or something, once you get a lot busier. And then they can go into your screenshot folder and grab the 3 screenshots and then create a post and create a slider for things like that. So hopefully that's a little bit helpful. Anyone else have questions for John about freelancing or networking or anything like that?
I have a question for John.
Yeah.
It's not about networking though. I don't think so. It's not that related, but I was just wondering, when you have clients coming over to you asking for a design, most of the time, well, not most of the time, but some of them will want to see their designs on print at the end of the process, right? Do you have any recommendation in terms of printing services, any company that would best suit that kind of request? Would it be local? Would it be overseas? Because you were mentioning obviously finding finding talent maybe overseas, but what about printing?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. Like, could you give me an example of something that you would want to send to a client in a print format? I mean, obviously, if you're building a website for them, then
no, it's not about, yeah, no. When I speak graphic design, I'm just thinking about either a logo, and then they have some merch that they want to start printing. Do you have any recommendation in that area?
It's not really something I ever use, to be honest. I mean, like most of what I do anyway, and obviously all of our careers are different. It's all kind of done digitally, and this is all I ever send. And even I work a lot in magazines, and we used to get the printers that we use to print the entire magazine, print 20,000 copies of it, to send us like huge sort of printed sheets of very high quality paper so we could look at them all and check all the errors and stuff like that. And we don't even really do that anymore. Now we just get a PDF and I just check that and make sure it's got the right amount of bleed and that, you know, all the text is fitting. And, you know, I can test everything in InDesign before I send it out and stuff like that. So, I mean, yeah, I'm afraid I don't really kind of like have like a recommendation of that. I mean, you know, here in Sydney, you get like, what's it called, like Quick Copy or something like that. You know, you can just get one of those to just print something out quickly. And, you know, they have high quality printers better than your little A4 printer that you may have at home. And they can do it fast. And then you can mail it over to them. Or, you know, if it is a local client, you can just kind of get someone, get an Uber driver to take it over or something like that. Yeah, I mean, I think that's it. If you use things online and they might be cheap from, you know, from China or Russia or something like that, they're normally not the best quality, which is probably why they're very cheap, unfortunately. So yeah, I mean, you know, you can find things like that, and obviously, you know, you really would be looking for a recommendation for that sort of thing. But yeah, it's not the best way to do it, and also just the delay. I think that's kind of the main thing that it comes down. That if I am producing something for a client and they're not here in Sydney, for me to get something printed and get to delivered to them will take days, and or I could just send it in an email and they can kind of look at it there and then, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, no, sometimes they do though, however, ask you for advice, right? They want you to create a logo for them, or they want you, or I don't know, whatever asset they need. And then they'll ask, you know, I need to print this, have this printed on a box because I'm going to send these kits or whatever. And when you're not really in that area, you just don't know exactly where to sort of, send them or give them the right advice. So
yeah, I mean, I guess sort of my only thing that would be useful for myself kind of goes back to what I was saying at the start of the presentation, and it's just sort of connections. In that, if I need some t-shirts done to give to a client, I call Jim. Jim, my friend, his company is selling t-shirts at gigs and stuff like that. So he knows the best person. I'm like, look, Jim, I just need one t-shirt done. I need it done right now. And he's like, all right, I'll call my guy, and he will call his guy. And I guess that's it. For anything little like that, this has all come from in-person networking, in that you think, well, I'm never going to need a t-shirt, but one day you will, you know? Yeah, and I guess that's it. Like if you came to me tomorrow and just said, okay, I need to do a magazine and I want it to done high quality paper and at a good price, I would call my client Elisa and she would tell me which printer she uses, and then I would come to you with that. So I guess that's it. Just sort of connections, in-person networking is
a cycle.
Yeah. And I guess that's the other thing as well. Like, you know, when a client ever asks you to do something, your answer is always, yes, I can do that. Even if you don't know how you're going to do it, you can always do it.
Or you know a person who does.
This is it. Yeah, you'll find out a way. Yeah, sometimes they're just like, oh, can you build this on the website? And I go, yeah, I don't even know what they're talking about sometimes. But I'll figure out how to do it. I'm like, all right, I'll just ask it for this. Yeah, I can build that. Yeah.
There might be a new company opportunity there. Uber Prints.
Yeah.
Send your print design into a central place, and it figures out the best local place to print it, and then sends it to an Uber driver, and they deliver it to your place. There you go.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
I've got another question in the chat from Soam. It says, do you use the same tactics like networking, visual social media, freelancing platforms like Upwork, etc. you mentioned in the slideshow to work for an agency, or do you directly do cold outreach to them, or maybe do SEO? What's the best way to go about that?
So it says, same tactics like networking.
When you work for an agency.
What's this, to get my name out there? Sorry, or?
Yeah, so when you're working for an agency, do you use the same tricks like the networking you do, or the visual social media, or, you know, using the freelance platforms when you're an agency, or do you kind of directly do like cold outreach to get clients? I think he's asking to get clients.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So a couple of different questions. I mean, like, this is the thing, when I'm working for another agency, I'm kind of just brought in as the designer, and I'm not really doing the kind of client work. And this is why, again, what they're paying me isn't the same as what I'm earning personally, because when I'm doing it, I am the one doing all the client management and the design work. But if I'm working for an agency, they're kind of doing all the client work and I'm just doing the design work. So I'm only doing half the job. So yeah, and I mean, look, that may be something that kind of comes from the agency, and every agency is different. And if you want, if you go, you know, I'm just saying, you know, if you can work for 5 years, 10 years for other agencies, mix it up a little bit would be my first bit of advice. But I'd also say, don't go for like huge agencies that employ like 1,000 people, because you will just be kind of sat in a corner doing your one little bit. Whereas if you can find an agency, let's just say I want to employ you, it's just me and you. So if you're trying to kind of like learn a lot more about networking, or even be involved in the kind of client work, you're going to do it a lot more in a smaller agency. You're going to have a lot more experience of it because you're probably needed to do all of that as well. And then that would be kind of working with the person who owns the agency to kind of figure out the best ways. But if you're going in there, you've got to have some advice. And, you know, you might be going into my company and I'm like, right, we should get the clients this way and that way. And you go, no, I've got 10 better ways of doing that, John. Let's do it this way, this way, this way. And I'm like, okay, you're brilliant. Yeah.
That is solid advice. Look for what I think the keyword is boutique agency, which means they charge a lot of money and they're small.
Exactly that.
And so one last question for John. It's 7:15 and I'm aware of people's times. It is evening time where most of us are. So one last question for John, if anyone has that, and we can wrap it up for tonight. Nope. Okay, John, I have one last question for you.
Yeah.
If there was just one thing that a new person could do to increase their networking, their reach, what advice would that be to that one person? That one thing that they could do?
One thing that they could do, I mean, obviously it depends on who you are and what's going to get you out there, but you've got to do something that no one's ever seen before. You've got to do something impressive that's just really going to impress everybody, so that whatever I have done right now is going to be shared by you and you and you and you and you and you and you, and everybody's going to just love it and stuff like that. So if you've come up with a super idea for something that no one's ever seen before, that would be my advice. It obviously depends on what you're doing. But if you're like a filmmaker, make a little 30-second video, get up on YouTube, get it all sharing, get all of your friends to share it, see if that would get your name out there. I mean, that's if you're just trying to do one thing, it's just got to be impressive. You've got to surprise people. And I was talking to my friend who works for Adobe, and he's like, all right, we were just having a beer, but he was just like, okay, if you wanted to join Adobe, tell me something. And I'm like, oh, well, I've worked for this company and I've made that. And he went, that's boring. Shut up. Tell me something exciting. I went, okay, Jamie. All right. And I had to think of something that was really exciting that he'd never heard before. So yeah, one thing that's exciting.
Sound advice, John. Well, thank you guys very much for all your questions tonight. Thank you for your attention as well. A big thanks to John as well for sharing his knowledge and stuff.
Okay.
Very, very good. So I'll get enough of that. Thank you. And stop. So next month, we are going to have a meeting next month. So we're going to do like a Christmas hangout because it's going to be roughly Christmas time. So the next one we're going to hold is December the 2nd at 6 p.m. Sydney time as well. It's going to be another Zoom hangout, Christmas hangout, but we're going to have a little bit of a different topic. So what we're going to do is, if you guys want to come along, we want to hear about your success stories for 2021, what you guys, what went well for you this year. And also some goals. We want to, if you guys can set yourselves 1 or 2 goals that you really want to achieve in 2022, or we would like to achieve in 2022, and we'd love to hear your stories for that. So a little bit of a Zoom chat, hear a little bit about you, what you've done this year, what went well, and for next year, what you really want to achieve next year. And you might not know how you want to achieve that, and we can have a little discussion and maybe point you in those directions for that. So that'll be on events.elementor.com and on meetup.com as well. So again, thank you very much, everyone. Have a good evening. Thanks for all the questions. Thanks for your input as well. I really do value that. And we'll see you guys next month. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Bye,
Cheers.
everyone.